Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm super excited to start a new series on this channel about student highlights or viewer highlights. You know, some of the really amazing things that you guys have been creating and try and shine the spotlight on all of you in the community that are creating really awesome things rather than just me over and over again. So of course I want to make things a little bit more educational as I'm featuring, your amazing projects. So I'm also going to be doing a little bit of light critiquing as I go through what I like about the portfolios, and then also, maybe things that can do a little bit of improvement as well. So the first portfolio I am featuring is by Evelyn, and one of the most crazy mind-blowing things about Evelyn, oh sorry, I should probably introduce her first. So she is a senior pursuing double degrees in computer science and mathematics at Texas A&M University. And one thing she told me is she was completely new to Blender before watching the video. So she did all of this in about 3 to 4 weeks, just the modeling part and everything, which is absolutely unbelievable when it comes to Blender. I love the storytelling and applying knowledge here for sure. A lot of people that watched the video, including myself when I was first starting out with Blender, I would just watch a video and I'd just copy the models. Evelyn took all the concepts that she learned in the video and applied it to her own models, which is, I think, insanely, it takes a lot of talent, takes a lot of skill to be able to do that, especially when you have no prior 3D background. And to the level that she did it, it's completely mind-blowing. I really love like the references to popular characters like the Smeesky or Smisky. It also has a Miffy hat, so Miffy over here, and then it also has a Miffy hat, and then some plushies like this jelly cat over here. She also has a lot of models that are kind of related to her hobbies, like she's into fashion, so she's got this stylistic purse here, the tabby shoes over here, and then probably photography or taking photos and like a Rubik's Cube sort of thing over there. And then the cool attention to details like the cables over there. I did have cables in mind, but it's cool that she paid attention to that. Also like this clock. This clock also works, which I didn't cover in the video, but she also added that in. So really awesome attention to detail. I love this mailbox edition here as well. So you can check out her other projects here. She's got some GitHub and some website links as well, and then a small contact page, and then also these social work as well. So definitely give her a follow. And if you're just starting out, I would definitely ask her for some tips on, things like managing proportions, which is something that I still struggle with, and especially when it comes to stylized scenes, proportions can be all over the place, so some things might overpower some other areas. Like here you can see this pencil is, proportionally wise, a lot larger than this purse, but in this case it definitely works. So she's definitely got that eye to know when to break proportions and also how to keep it still feeling good throughout the entire scene, which I'm actually really shocked by, because this is something I still struggle with and something I see a lot of beginners struggle with. So here's like a professional 3D artist just to show you, like, this chair is larger than this sofa chair. In real life that's almost never the case. Same thing with this pumpkin. Good luck finding a pumpkin that's bigger than a sofa chair significantly, right? So when it comes to stylized scenes, the proportions are all over the place, but being able to make it so it still feels nice is an incredibly difficult skill to learn and, just feel intuitively over time. So I'm extremely impressed by Evelyn and what she did in her first ever Blender project. So when it comes to areas that could be improved a little bit, I did change, kind of critiquing myself actually. In the video, I used a ease like this, where it kind of like bounces back. I did change the ease a little bit to make it a little bit more soft. I would consider changing that, but honestly, I've thought about it, and it might be a little bit personal preference, because this scene is definitely a lot more moody, more serious vibe than mine, but also like sophisticated as well. So maybe that bounce kind of signifies some sort of intensity, which is really nice. But it's something also to consider depending on what sort of mood that you want to go for. So maybe that's not really a critique. When it comes to actual critique, I'm actually critiquing myself at this point, but I would consider making the interface a little bit more playful. So like these icons, for example, like it's awesome that we have the user feedback and the hover states, but I would consider making those hover states a little bit more playful, like this one where you hover and it kind of like jiggles and sort of things like that. So, a little bit more playful, a little bit more fun as well. I'd also try and keep the project images a little bit consistent. So I see a combination of like logos and screenshots. So I'd consider maybe all screenshots or maybe all logos, And then I wouldn't be afraid to maybe add some sort of yellow filter or beige filter or brown filter on all of them, to sort of match with the rest of the color palette of your user interface. Speaking of the color palette, I will say it seems a little bit dull. And I know a lot of people do prefer sort of a muted sort of color palette. It's like plain sort of things like that. Actually, that was me as well. But when it comes to accessibility, we have to, increase the contrast a little bit. So I'd consider increasing the contrast between like the outline color and the base color and so on and so forth. Over there, again, it depends on your demographic. If all of them prefer sort of a muted color palette, that's fine. But it's just something to consider. I do really like this addition of the search icon. It's like you're discovering something about someone, like discovering projects, trying to make it like a search bar, like about me and so on and so forth. One thing I will say about it though, it might confuse a little bit users. They think they can click on it to like type here to filter projects or something. So I definitely like the idea. I feel like it'll depend on how it's designed to execute that. When it comes to the 3D scene itself, I would probably consider adding a little bit more storytelling with the water, assuming this is water. The reason I added water is because I kind of wanted to give it like a sort of ruined vibe, like it's a something in the middle of an island sort of thing, like tropical almost. That's why I added the cracks on the walls, and then also the water. It's like a ruined temple sort of vibe. And then I also added like step rocks to go up and add that storytelling that you can enter from here and see the welcome mat. So when it comes to the water here, I'd probably consider adding a little bit more storytelling elements, or instead of using water, you could use like a stone base of bricks and something like that, something that relates to a city if that's something you're going for. So I'd add a little bit more storytelling with the water or change the water to some other sort of platform. But other than that, the modeling is great. The lighting is great as well. I think a lot of it is also personal preference at the same time. So I'm just saying my personal preferences as well. But yeah, really, really good job. She did say she's still working on it, but I'm so impressed. I had to feature it. And, hats off to you, Evelyn. I'm excited to see the future updates as well as your future work. To all the viewers, definitely give her a follow. So the next one I'm going to be reviewing is called Ways Device, and she actually won CSS Design Awards of the Day, which is absolutely insane. And this is the first website she has ever made. So she's the designer, and works with a lot of different sort of design tools beyond the web as well. But this is her actual first website, and I just think it's absolutely insane that she won CSSDA of the day as her first website as a designer. So you can see straight off the bat a lot of cool attention to detail, like the sort of distortions along the edges of these borders and things. And then also the computer sort of details here as well. Super cool. I'm gonna enter with no music, but there is music. And you can see she also has like the sort of intro that I did in my video. And she also took like the Steam and made it a lot more creative, like using it to symbolize overheating. And you can like click on the screen and it'll switch image textures along there. And then you can reset it over here. And then if you have some audio, so if you do have some audio enabled, there's like a soundboard over here that you can play with. And then she also did implement the day and night toggle. It's not seamless because that's a little bit more advanced, but she still has that day in, day night, which is really, really cool. And of course, instant changing is also a stylistic preference as well. And then, yeah, I mean, just amazing, amazing CSS over here. Definitely deserves CSSDA of the day. And then she also has some really, really cool projects that she has worked on in the past as well. I think it's really, really awesome how she combined baked textures with like actual real-time lighting textures. Here you can see like the reflection on the robot is a real-time lighting source, whereas all these other ones are a little bit baked. And I think in the nighttime as well, yeah, the red light is also a point light, I think. That's why the redness is showing up and reflecting onto the thing over here. So really, really nice use of real-time lighting mixed with big textures. And then the subtle animations like the clouds over here and the device that goes back and forth. Great, great attention to detail. I really, really like it. When it comes to critiques, I think a little bit of subtle design choices might make it feel a little bit more smooth. So here you can see that the cloud kind of goes in a circle, so it's like kind of clipping into this over here, which is fine because that's what clouds do to mountains, I assume anyway, so it doesn't look too bad. But if it kind of shows out into the other side as well, feels a little bit off there. When it comes to the hover over here, I feel like the origin point is a little bit off-centered compared to the signs, which feels a little bit unnatural compared to having the origin point, I don't know, kind of like in the center of the sign. Maybe that's just something that I feel, but it feels a little bit off over there. Yeah, here you can see like the cloud kind of going inside this mountain, which looks a little bit odd. Another thing I would probably critique a little bit is the use of the grid or axis helper. Obviously, I think it's a personal preference to leave this in or remove it, but one thing with the grid or axis helper, I think that's what it is it's a little bit blurry. And even from far away, it looks a little bit blurry, so it kind of looks a little bit low resolution compared to everything else that's a little bit more high resolution as well. A little bit like spacing issues where it's like not on the actual ground, but I had that in my own portfolio where I had floating things as well, so it's really not a big deal at all. But yeah, mainly when it comes to critique is probably just origin point over here, a little bit blurry here, just some small design sort of things. Not much to say about the interface. I think it's like a blend between like a very technical interface and a very, you know, flat interface. So it's like right dab in the middle, and I think it does it beautifully. Overall, I'm really impressed, and it definitely wins the award. Way you should be really proud of yourself, and I'm really proud of you for your first website to win an industry award that a lot of professionals struggle to get. So yeah, definitely congrats, and keep on building websites and keep on winning industry awards. So the next one is by Angelo, and it's based off of the Bella's Park one. And instead of using a park, he does a snow scene with a Club Penguin theme. And I think that's just an amazing idea. You know, Club Penguin was mad nostalgia, you know, for us kids or us Gen Zers for sure. I didn't play it that much, but I definitely saw the memes and the posts about it a lot. So it's really cool that he brought it back and used it as a portfolio. This is exactly the kind of project that, you know, I wanted to sort of entice, like bringing back your own, you know, something that means something to you rather than, you know, just copying what I did in the video. So this is an amazing application of that. He also left a perspective camera with orbit controls in, which is nice. It gives you a little bit more view, and you can like see things like the submarine here over here. Sorry, submarine? I don't know how to pronounce it. My English sucks. But you can also like click on things and it'll play like a sound effect. There are some copyright songs here, so I have it muted. But it's really cool how there's like some sort of game as well where you can like discover them. And each thing that you click on shows like an interactive here. He also has some, you know, projects over here that he works on as an engineer. And these are like 3D objects that he is 3D printed and made as well. And then, you know, some other things and activities that he's been a part of. I love the way it kind of like comes in and like is kind of like splattered around the screen. It kind of gives that sort of homey vibe where you're like spreading photos across your table and things like that. So I really like how he brought that in and also like attached it to Club Penguin, because when you think of Club Penguin, you already feel nostalgic, and then when you look at past photos, you also feel nostalgic. So it's a great way to like symbiotically connect those sort of ideas. So great thinking there by Angelo for sure. And just the overall playful elements, like the small little penguin over here that's inside the igloo and you can like click on it. And then like the subtle confidence here where it's like only way to win is to hire Angelo or hire him. So the subtle confidence in there for a portfolio, super cool. I kind of like it. And yeah, overall, amazing job. When it comes to critiques, I think the first thing I'll talk about is the use of flat shading for rectangular faces, like on this penguin over here. I would consider switching it to smooth shading. That way you can't see the individual faces. But if you are going for a low poly style where they kind of use flat shading, they typically do some sort of tessellation rather than, you know, stay with the typical rectangular faces. So for example, if I come over here to a really popular professional pack over here, you can see they definitely use flat shading here as well, but the shapes are based in triangles or some sort of diamond shapes and things like that. So here is another one that you can see over here. You can see also using flat shading, but all the shapes are definitely, you know, beyond just the typical rectangular ones. So when you're going for like flat shading low poly styles, you know, typically you don't just stick with rectangular faces. So definitely something I would consider, either, you know, change up the flat shading of the faces to smooth shading, or adjust the overall style of the flat shading as well. Another thing I would consider is probably taking a look at some more playful fonts rather than I think this is the default Blender font. I don't know if it matches the playfulness of the scene. And then there's a little bit small, subtle attention to detail things like this text is not as slanted as a sign, which looks a little bit off. And the thing over here, there's like some Z index fighting. You might have a little bit of duplicate face over here by accident, which is what's causing that over there. And if you look at like Club Penguin here, you can see that there's very few harsh edges and they're kind of like rounded a little bit. So I would consider possibly giving the signs or the house, some sort of bevel to make it a little bit more round and a little bit less intense. I know I didn't cover that in the Blender video, but it's just something to consider for future scenes. And then like a few coding issues that I noticed, like the penguin ending a little bit abruptly. And I would consider looking into squash and stretch principles when it comes to animation, especially for something like a stylized penguin. And then a few things like orbit controls, fighting against the intro animation, but these are more of coding problems to tackle later down the road. But other than that, I think it's got amazing storytelling. I love the gamification of things, and I love the way that you took it and made it your own. Amazing job, Angelo. Keep doing what you're doing. The fact this is your first project is incredible, and I'm excited to see what you create in the future. So the next one is by Filbert, and he's got a lot of more technical complexity that I didn't cover in the video, so I really like how he took it and went a lot further, a lot deeper. And he was also a Three.js beginner at the time, so the fact that he learned a lot of this on his own is really, really nice. So here you can see like this fading thing to indicate some sort of user interaction. I definitely wanted something similar in my own portfolio to indicate user interaction, but I just got lazy and didn't implement it. But anyway, now you can see I can click on it and it'll actually move the camera there. Also something I wanted to do but didn't end up, implementing it. But here you can see like it's own sort of interface, which is super, super cool. And you can like play around with the computer. So this is a very, very popular thing to do when it comes to computer screens in Three.js projects. So if you're new to Three.js, you probably haven't seen many computer screen sort of interactions like this, but it's very common and it's, it never gets boring. It's always cool to do. And I love the way that he implemented it as well. Kind of make it look like a Mac. And here you can see even the time and date is correct as well. And then there's also another hotspot over here that you can click and just take a look at that certificate. One of the best courses in the world. Definitely check it out if you're ever into Three.js. And one of the most awesome things about this portfolio is definitely the transition into nighttime. So you can see it goes dark first and then the lights come on. And then in reverse, obviously, lights go off and then the day comes on. So I really love this. He's managing it with 3 textures. So one intermediate one nighttime one, and one daytime one, and he's just switching between all 3 of those. So this one, second one, and then third one. Super cool way to get the light turning on effect with baked textures rather than real-time lighting. So if you're curious about the computer screen, probably an iframe. So let me just search for iframe. Yeah, it's a iframe and it maps to an actual hosted website. So let me just copy this. It'll probably just be the computer screen website that we're seeing. So if I go, and yeah, you can see that this is just, the same thing that we saw on the computer screen. So it's a really, really common thing to use the CSS 3D renderer and map it onto, the scene over there. So here, if I go into Three.js docs, they have a page on it. And then they also have like a small little example over here. And if you click on the code, it'll take you to the code. I already have the code open here. But here you can see iframe and CSS 3D renderer. So it's a very common method to attach a screen to a computer screen in your 3D space. When it comes for critiques, I think a little bit of inconsistency with the user interface to the overall scene. The overall scene feels very minimalistic and like flat, whereas the interface kind of shows a little bit more of like glassmorphism or like skeuomorphism, where it's like a little bit more punchy and like in your face sort of thing. I don't know if that matches with the 3D scene, so I would consider updating this button to be a little bit more flat and like match the 3D scene, or update the 3D scene to be a little bit more punchy and like in your face rather than kind of like laid back and smooth and everything like that. I also feel like this is a little bit too close to the ground, and these are a little bit small compared to the chair. Another thing I'll say is I'll probably use the colors to evoke a little bit more emotion in the scene. Right now, the color palette with these grays and these dull sort of colors kind of gives it a more corporate vibe where you're like working in a cubicle or something like that. So it kind of takes away a little bit from the energy. Like you have like this high energy poster here, whereas the rest of the room feels like a corporate office. So a little bit dull and like the yellow haze on on the sort of desk over there. It kind of just reminds you of like those cabinets in corporate offices. So maybe adjust the colors a little bit to evoke a little bit more emotion there as well. I know it might be realistic to your actual room, and my room isn't great either, but if you wanted to evoke a little bit more emotion, maybe consider changing up the colors a little bit as well. But yeah, great job, Filbert. I love the additions. I love these pulsating things to engage users a little bit more, and I especially love this three texture transition here, and I'm definitely probably going to be using that in the future. So thanks so much, and keep on creating. Okay, so this next one is, she's a professional 3D artist. Everyone else previously was completely new to Blender, or only knew it for like a month or two. So Mandy's kind of got an unfair advantage. It definitely looks coherent and beautiful and consistent. And even the subtle details like this bird poop on top of the truck. It's super, super cool. And then like the cool references to like Spirited Away and things like that. And I'm not sure what this is, but really cool how she added her own sort of twist on the animations and things like that. Super cool. And it's also very symbolic because I think she's switching jobs or has already found another job and is moving. So this kind of like symbolizes her moving from job to job and things like that. So great idea, great storytelling, great sort of execution as well. She is completely new to programming, so I don't want to critique it too hard, and she's still working on this project as well, but I thought it was really pretty and I wanted to feature it. So it's kind of like the same thing I said for Evelyn's. I would consider looking at a little bit, making the interface a little bit more playful and a little bit more consistent. You can see like a sort of bump over here with this over here. Rounded corners on both of them looks a little bit inconsistent. And then like having this sharp corner here compared to the round corners looks a little bit off, and the button's a little bit static compared to the rest of the scene. So a little bit, but these are mainly just like, also here I can click on something, without even seeing it as well. These are mostly just coding issues rather than anything. I'm sure it'll look amazing once it's done, just like the 3D scene. But yeah, Mandy had absolutely no coding experience, no Three.js experience either, and she still made this really awesome thing as a 3D artist. Obviously, I'm biased to the 3D artists out there. If you're wondering if you should spend the time to put your models in the browser, I'd say yes, and Mandy's like a great example of that, but obviously I'm biased. But yeah, I just think this is really beautiful and wanted to share it. Whether you continue to code or not, Mandy, I just want to say I think it's really cool that you took the initiative to dive into a completely separate field, into the world of programming. So, whether you decide to pursue it or not, is up to you, but I think it's really cool that you gave it a try and created something really awesome from it. So keep it up, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future. So the last one for this video is by Ro Obin. I think that's what he wrote over here, and I think he's also a senior in college, or he recently just graduated. I don't actually know. But overall, amazing job. I mean, this is definitely a very stylistic one to like sort of a retro sort of blocky sort of vibe, and I think it was executed well. I love the easing on this chair and so on and so forth, and like the sort of more punchy ones on these as well. I think the easing really fits here for like the punchiness vibe, right? Like the spray canisters and the skateboard kind of reminds you of like Subway Surfer, that sort of rebellious sort of vibe. So really well executed, and then it's balanced with the chair that is a little bit more stylish. So you get like a stylish sort of ease, and then you also get like the more abrupt, rebellious sort of kind of ease here as well. So definitely communicates to the overall vibe. Not much to critique on this portfolio. I think you did a good job with the interface and consistency. I would consider adding a custom scroll bar so it matches a little bit better. Maybe keep these aligned over here so the user doesn't have to look up a little bit. Maybe add a little bit of pixelated icons so it kind of breaks up the text a little bit. And if you really want to get complicated, you could do like some sort of hover pixelated interactions in the background, so it kind of gives it that digital sort of vibe that you're going for. And kind of like what Filbert did over here with the cursor hovers, I feel like this would be an amazing opportunity to use like a pixelated exclamation mark or pixelated cursor showing that the user can click on these. I would also change the cursor to the pointer one so they know they can click on it, or some sort of user feedback to show that this is clickable. And I'm not sure if this is like supposed to continue over or not, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And the last thing I noticed is probably to add a little bit of debouncing so they can't just perma float items unless you left that in intentionally like I did, just for fun and just allowing people to have some sort of Easter egg as well. But overall, very consistent, great job. I love it. I love the simplicity. It's easy to find things and everything like that. I was planning to cover his second Three.js project, but I will cover that in the next video because this one's getting a little bit too long. So in closing, I just want to say, thank you to everyone that allowed me to use your portfolio and feature it. I definitely feel like the spotlight should be on some of the things that you guys have created rather than just myself. These are really amazing projects, and I felt like I had to feature them. I will say every single person that you see in this video, they learned Three.js and Blender significantly faster than I did. And at the rate they're going, they're definitely going to be passing me pretty soon. And I think that's really, really the awesome thing about being a teacher is seeing your students pass you. And that's kind of why I started my YouTube channel. I mean, to record a video and edit a video, it probably takes twice as long as just doing the project itself or adding to the existing project. So I have to like sacrifice all that time to create a video instead. And that comes at the cost of growth. So I think it's really awesome and really fulfilling to see that others can use the things that I teach to, accelerate their learning and, push the boundaries of the internet a lot faster. So, keep on going and, don't look back sort of thing. I also want to thank every single person for letting me publicly critique your work as well. And hopefully to the other viewers out there, hopefully that some of that critique also helps when you approach your own projects. And of course, last but not least, thanks to my Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. The only reason I haven't been posting more is because of money issues. I have to work and YouTube doesn't pay me much. And of course, also special shout out to all my donators on Ko-Fi. That also really means a lot as well. Yeah, so this will be a series, and if you want your portfolio featured, definitely reach out to me through my email, Discord, whatever. I'm really, really flexible. DM me on Twitter, DM me on Instagram, doesn't really matter. I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, take care. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you in my next video. Peace out. Take care.